Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode we're going to talk about the number one question that you should be asking yourself when you are using the law of attraction. I would actually even argue that as Muslims, we should probably all of us be asking ourselves this one question on a very regular basis. But specifically, those of us who choose to live a more consciously aware life and an intentional life where we are more aware of the direction in which our life is going, we need to be even more aware of asking ourselves this question and knowing the answer to this question at any moment in time. And I'm not going to continue blabbering on. I'm just going to tell you what it is. It is, will this thing bring me closer to Allah? In whatever it is that you are aiming to do, whatever direction you want to go in, whatever you're trying to explore, whatever it is that you dream and desire of, the number one question you should be asking yourself as you are desiring these things and thinking about putting it into action and actually going in that direction and making this thing come to fruition and become a reality and manifest it into your life is, will it bring me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That is the number one question you should be asking yourself. Now, I could of course end the episode here. That's it. Thank you for listening. See you next week. No, I'm not going to do that. Let's talk a little bit about why this is so important. Number one, as I said, all of us probably should be doing this, whether or not we're choosing to live by the law of attraction and using this method or not. We should probably all of us be asking ourselves this question. And I do think we do have a tendency as humans to forget this because we do get caught up in this dunya. One thing that we are constantly talking about in my membership group, which you can also join, there's a link in the show notes and in every bio where there is a bio. It's £10 a month. Anyway, you can go and find the details where you're looking at it. But one thing that we constantly come back to is it going to bring me closer to Allah? It's that aspect of things. Is it going to make you a better Muslim? Is it going to make you a better servant to Allah? Is it going to make you a happier servant of Allah? Is it going to make you feel better as Allah's servant? Is it going to strengthen your faith in Allah? Is it going to make your deen stronger overall? Those are the kinds of questions that we keep coming back to. And if the answer is anything but yes, then there's room for looking at what it is that you're thinking of doing or currently doing and reassessing, zhuzh it up, change it, do something different, try a different perspective, whatever it might be. But that is the number one question that we keep coming back to. And we've sort of, all of us very much agree, like if that's not the end goal, ultimately, with whatever it is that we're trying to do, then something's wrong. And not wrong in a way that it can't be fixed, but wrong in the way that sometimes we need to come back again to the drawing board and, as I said, just reassess things a little bit. Oh, I'm so sorry if you can hear the wind there. I just saw little spikes in the microphone. My goodness. I'm trying to, sorry, I just had to move you a little bit. I'm sorry if that sounded awful, but I'm just trying to protect you from the wind. But it's 32 degrees right now and I'm very, very grateful, but I'm also very grateful when the wind is blowing inside this tiny house. So forgive me if I'm not going to do very much about it other than just kind of move the microphone away. Okay, so that's the number one question we should be asking ourselves and being very aware of on a constant basis, like constantly coming back and checking in with this thing. And one of the things that is so awesome about this question and that is so useful with a question like this is that it pertains to big, goals and then little everyday actions as well. And the big goals is, of course, if I'm dreaming of wealth because I want to be flashy and I want to be able to buy drugs and alcohol and use my money for sinful stuff, then of course I can very clearly go in and say, well, clearly my goal is not rooted in wanting to be closer to Allah. It's actually rooted in this dunya and the desires, the attractions of this dunya in this sort of like heedless way of living. And so that will sort of like be like, I suppose, an obvious way to see, like, okay, well, that is one way you can answer this question very quickly. Let's take a less obvious one. For instance, I want to have a successful business. Okay, well, what's the drive behind the successful business? I'm going to take myself as an example here with Manifesting Muslimah. So, of course, there can be more than one like outcome or desire in wanting it, and so ultimately I can say, well, because I want to make money doing something that I love. I want to have freedom where I can travel and not be stuck. I can help people, but ultimately when I come back down to it, I know that my desire for creating something like Manifesting Muslimah is because it is important for me to have daily reminders of my deen, because that brings me back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that was a very conscious decision I made when I reverted back to Islam, and I was in a position where I could sort of decide to go on an entrepreneurial journey. And it was such a conscious decision on my behalf to say, I choose to do something that'll remind me of my deen every day, because I recognize my own weakness in forgetting, not because I want to forget, but because I very quickly get caught up in this dunya. And so it's very important for me to have a job where my religion is very much, the driving force of it. It's deeply rooted within it. You cannot remove religion like from my job. And that was the same thing even before I did Manifesting Muslimah. It was with personal training, and a lot of people will be like, but it's training, it's fitness. Yes, but I was catering to Muslim women. And by catering to Muslim women, I made sure that I was around other Muslims, and that would keep me on track as well. It was not to the same extent that it is today, where, I'm studying far more on my Quran, and I'm speaking about hadith, the Qurans, the teachings of Islam, the principles and everything like that with clients, and, fully delving deep into the spiritual and theoretical and philosophical and practical meanings of Islam with other Muslims. But there definitely was an element of, okay, I am reminding myself of my religion daily by working with women who look and act and behave and come from something that is very recognizable to me and something that I want to be closer to, instead of, for instance, going into bodybuilding when I was a personal trainer, and teaching people how to bodybuild. And that whole industry, while, we can discuss whether or not it's good or bad, but from a personal trainer perspective, it's a really cool industry and cool niche to go into, because it's such an extreme of what the body can and cannot do. And there was definitely times where I was super intrigued about that. But that is also an industry where you are very much focused on only the physical appearance of a human. And while there's a lot of discipline involved, it also is very showy. Anyone who's seen, even, it doesn't have to be those huge Olympian sort of muscles. It could also be the bikini body type competition, where, the women look less muscular and more natural and things. But even in those aspects, I would have to train people to go on stage practically naked and things. And so, the direction in that, while is an interesting for me as a former personal trainer and somebody who finds it so fascinating what the body can and cannot do, would be so interesting for me to go into. But ultimately the question would be, it's not going to bring me closer to Allah. If anything, it could potentially push me further away, because at some point I might be tempted to do it myself. And there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, I think I would like to try that, just to see what I could do with my physical body. But the end goal would have to be the competition, to be like, oh my god, there's that deadline, there's that judgment of like, okay, did I get it, did I not? And so potentially that road could have led me to standing on a stage one day in a very tiny bikini and a very dark tan, not focusing on anything in my life except my physical appearance and my body. And and so while for me, and this is very important for me to say, while for me that would not have brought me closer to Allah, maybe it would to somebody else. I'm not here to judge or say anything. I can't speak on anybody's behalf, so I can't sit here and judge whether or not that's a route that for some people might bring them closer to Allah. But for me, it was a very clear no. It was a very clear no. It was sort of like, that's not going to do that for me. But working with Muslim women who have the same struggles as I do as a Muslim woman, in this day and age who also would like to feel sexy, feel attractive in their body, feel confident in their body, lose weight, gain muscle, be strong, even if you can't, show your six pack all the time, who are fasting for 30 days once a year and still would like to try and remain somewhat fit and active during that month of Ramadan. Those are the kinds of things that constantly bring me back to Islam. Those are the kinds of things that constantly bring me back to, okay, how do I then go about as a Muslim woman to incorporate that in my business and in my thinking as an entrepreneur and as a personal trainer, as a nutritionist who work with women like myself who are also striving for more than just this dunya. Okay, so that's just like as an example of something that is maybe not as clear cut, where it's like, well, how do I know if it's going to bring me closer to Allah? Like, all I really want is just a bigger house. Well, a bigger house, again, what is the bigger house for? Is it to show off to your friends? Is it so that you can grow your family? Is it so that you can celebrate more stuff at your place? I remember when my ex-husband and I bought a beautiful big home. We were both of us very family oriented, and we immediately saw the biggest room in the house and was like, well, not the biggest room, we made actually the biggest room upstairs in the end, but when we initially purchased the house, we saw the biggest room, and that was the dining room, or what we wanted to be the dining room, because we hosted a lot for our family, and so we brought the family together quite a lot. And so things like that, and for me at the time, and still in many ways is, and for my ex-husband it also was, the feeling of family makes us feel grateful, and it makes us happier people, and it makes us feel more grateful to Allah for giving us relations within our family that we want to be around, because not everybody has that. So again, even the simple things can have that meaning. So bringing it down again to an even simpler position, perhaps. I'm sorry if you can hear the wind again from time to time. I don't know, I keep apologizing for it. I don't know if I should. Let me know if it's like annoying you that I keep apologizing for the wind. Are you used to it at this point? Or would you like me just continuously just kind of point it out so you know what it is? But anyway, so it could also be sort of like, okay, well, a smaller thing, like I need a pair of winter boots. Whilst a lot of us are like, a pair of winter boots is like, it's not that big and existential. And most of the times, listen, it's not that I'm saying every half a decision you make, you have to like stop and question yourself. I mean, I think that would be a good thing, but, oh, excuse me, I just knocked the microphone. I think that might be a good thing, but like, I don't think it's necessary. But if it's something that, where a pair of winter boots is actually creating a difference in your lifestyle, meaning that you have to save money, maybe you have to stop working out, maybe you're taking away from your children's savings or whatever because the winter boots are massively expensive or something, or they're like a specific pair of winter boots that you've been wanting for a while, or maybe it's for your kids themselves or whatever. The point is a decision where you know that there will be sort of like a little bit of an effect on the other side of it as well, right? And that would still also be, is this going to ultimately bring me closer to Allah? Is this a priority that I should be prioritizing right now? Like, should this be put in the back burner for now? Because a lot of people, and this is where it really comes into play, and maybe I can explain it better this way by saying a lot of people will save up money to buy a bag, or they'll spend money on a holiday or something that we're thinking it's not that big of a deal, like it's not like it's a one-time purchase or something, but on the other hand, they will not pay their bills, or they will put themselves into debt, or they will borrow money, maybe from friends, maybe from an institution like a bank or something. But ultimately, they're making this decision that will make them a little bit happy in one moment. But ultimately, on the other end of it, there could be a lot of unhappiness, a lot of feeling ungrateful, a lot of resentment, a lot of things like that, that ultimately is not going to make you a better Muslim, because those are emotions that while you're allowed to have them and you should feel them when they're there, you shouldn't be looking for them. You shouldn't create them for yourselves, because this would very much be in a position where you have the option not to put yourself in a position where you will end up feeling resentful or less grateful, or, you know, where it'll create so much anxiety and stress in your life that you become depressed and don't pray, that you start questioning Allah's generosity in this dunya, to you or to others, where you start feeling that you, like, Allah plays favors with certain people and somehow has it out for you. So do you see what I mean about even the smallest things sometimes, if we're not thinking very carefully about it, can lead to bigger outcomes? It's the butterfly effect. The butterfly flaps its wings, and on the other end of the world, there's a tsunami or something. Is it a hurricane or a tsunami? I can't remember. You know how I am with metaphors. I make them up as I go. But ultimately, everything that you do will have a reaction. Everything cascades. There is no such thing as an action without a reaction. And so we have to understand that even sometimes the smallest decisions right now could have a bigger decision on the other side, which is where sometimes it can be very applicable for us, even in the smaller actions that we take on a daily basis, to stop and just question it. Do I really need or want to buy another bar of chocolate because I'm trying to lose weight and it's making me unhealthy? The extra weight is making me unhealthy, or it's making me unhappy, and it's making me a miserable mum, for instance, if you've got kids, because I don't have the energy to play with my kids, or it's making me grumpy because I'm constantly unhappy with my body, or it's making me less intimate with my husband, and that's creating a struggle within the marriage, or an issue within our marriage. So even something as quote unquote innocent as buying that piece of chocolate at the supermarket. Now, of course, again, I'm a former personal trainer and nutritionist. I just feel like I need to say this because I know so many of us have this issue around wanting to lose weight. And so it's not about the chocolate. It was never about the chocolate. The chocolate is actually a non-starter at this point. It's about your decisions and your ability to live with a purpose, with intention, more consciously. So the chocolate is actually not even. This is not the villain. This is not the enemy. The enemy is inside your head. That's what's going on. It's the little whispers from shaitan that comes in and tells you, just get it. It doesn't matter. Because shaitan knows what's going to come off at the other end of that. Yes, I 100% believe that al-waswas will also come in those minuscule moments where we don't even think about it. So just be aware of that. Anyway, so getting back to it, it is so important for us to constantly ask ourselves the question, whether it is, you know, for the bigger life purpose, I want to change my career and move to a different country kind of decisions, or if it is sort of these intermediate or smaller decisions in our lives. Will this bring me closer to Allah? Will this bring me closer to Allah? I've said many times before, and I'll continue to say it, inshallah, until the day that I pass, your ultimate purpose, because I get so many people asking me like, but I don't know what my purpose is. How do I know what my purpose is? Your ultimate purpose is already made for you. It was made the day you were born. It is to worship Allah. That is your purpose. That is your ultimate purpose. So every time you choose a dunya focused purpose, this is not a wrong thing. Allah has also created dunya focused purposes, but your dunya focused purpose should always bring you back to Allah, the ultimate purpose. Okay, so you've got your ultimate purpose to worship Allah. You've got your dunya purpose. Your dunya purpose should not bring you away from Allah. Your dunya purpose should make you a better Muslim. It should make you a better servant. It should make you a happier Muslim. You know, it should make you more grateful for Allah. It should make you understand Allah's mercy and greatness and abundance for you, and His mercy to you, or for you, to you. I don't know, I'm not English. So those are the kinds of things that you need to remember. So even if you are looking at your dunya purpose, ask yourself, does this dunya purpose answer or serve the ultimate purpose of serving Allah? That is how deeply you should be looking into it. That is how much you should be looking into it. And if you are then now in a position where you're like, yes, I know that my dunya purpose serves the ultimate purpose of serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah, Him allowing me access to heaven. May He do that for all of us. Inshallah, I mean. Even at that point, you've got that, and now you need to break up this purpose into smaller actionable steps. Okay? Even those tiny steps. Will me foregoing doing the work today bring me closer to my dunya purpose that ultimately brings me closer to my life the ultimate purpose? So doing the little step, is that going to bring me closer to Allah ultimately? Again, so while we're looking at it and saying, oh, it's just, one post on social media, or it's just one workout, or it's just one day that I didn't play with my kids, or it's just one prayer, or it's just one whatever, one day that I'm not fasting this year, or whatever. The ultimate one, look at it from that bigger perspective. Is this going to bring me closer to Allah? Is it going to bring me closer to Allah? And sometimes it might. Foregoing doing something sometimes brings you closer to Allah. Sometimes doing the thing brings you closer to Allah. But ultimately, you have to discern every single time, does this bring me closer to Allah? And if it doesn't, my darling, it's not the end of the world. It just means that maybe you need to zhuzh it a little, tweak it here and there, rearrange it, look at it from a different perspective. And when I say look at it from a different perspective, I don't mean force the objective into play. What I'm saying is maybe I do it from a different angle, and that will make it more aligned with the ultimate purpose, which is it'll bring me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, my darling, that is what I had to share with you today. I hope that this episode was beneficial to you. Let me know. Reach out to me over on Instagram at Manifesting Muslimah. Send me a message, rate and review this podcast so that other future listeners might find it and figure out whether or not this is for them. It really does actually help a lot. Podcasts with more reviews tend to have a better reach, because people will be like, okay, well, I can see what people are saying, and so either I want it or I don't, and so it really does help. So do feel free to help me out with that. Let's see if we can reach more people, inshallah, with the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and get people to live a more conscious life in this dunya, so that we can live a better life in the hereafter, inshallah. All right, my darling, I will love you and leave you, but until next time, please don't forget to live in love.